Today we're going to be looking at ratios and proportions and just doing some basic word problems. To start with, we're going to solve proportions using cross products. Now when you were in 6th grade, you basically treated them like equivalent fractions. But if you look at these, it's a little harder to do that. It's not as simple as multiplying the numerator and the denominator by the same number. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply cross products. Why are we doing this? Remember when we tested for proportionality? Our cross products are equal. So we're simply going to look at cross products. In this case, we have 15x equals 180. Now it's a one-step equation. We just simply divide by 15 on both sides. And in this case, we get x equals 12. And if you look at that, 15 20ths, 9 12ths, they're both 3/4. So let's try it on this one. 12 and 20, 15 and x. So once again, we have 15x, kind of popular today. And then we'll do 12 times 20, and we'll get 240. It's a one-step equation, so now what we do is divide by 15. So you're going to do 240 divided by 15, and you get x equals 16. So basically what you do is you're just multiplying cross products and then solving the equation that results. Now, what happens when we get into word problems? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, you have to set up ratios. You have to compare two ratios because that's what a proportion is. So, a 5-kilometer race is approximately 3.12 miles long. If a marathon is 26.2 miles, how many kilometers long is a marathon? So in this case, it looks like our units we're comparing are kilometers and miles. So we can simply set up a ratio of kilometers to miles. In this case, we know that 5 kilometers is 3.12 miles. But what happens on our other side? What's our equivalent ratio we're trying to find? Well, it says if a marathon is 26.2 miles, we know miles are in our denominator. That means we're trying to find kilometers. And once again, we're going to do cross products. We'll get 3.12x equals, and then we just multiply 5 times 26.2, and we get 131. Now, we're going to divide by 3.12 on both sides. So we'll do 131 divided by 3.12, and we get approximately 42 kilometers. It's really 41.987. And having run marathons, around 42 kilometers sounds right. Mikey is making lemonade. The recipe calls for 6 lemons to make 2 quarts of lemonade. How many lemons would you need for 5 gallons of lemonade? Okay, so right now the first thing we need to do is figure out what we're comparing. We know that we're comparing lemons to quarts. That is one of our ratios. So that means that whatever we do, we have to make sure that we use the same units. So in this case, it's 6 lemons for every 2 quarts. Equals, when we're trying to find out how many lemons, that's a question mark, for 5 gallons. But wait, 5 gallons? But that says quarts. So what do? We change the gallons to quarts. How many quarts are in a gallon? 4, that's right. So you just do 5 times 4 is 20 quarts. So we're going to do cross products. We'll get 2x equals 120, divide by 2, x equals 60. So we will need 60 lemons for 5 gallons of lemonade. That's a lot of lemons. Okay, let's try one more. And this makes sure we pay attention to our units. Melissa wanted to make some chocolate chip cookies. A recipe that makes 5 dozen cookies requires 2 cups of chocolate chips. If Melissa wants to make 108 cookies, how many cups of chocolate chips does she need? So we know that we have 5 dozen cookies. Well, isn't that the same as 60 cookies? So we're going to put cookies over chips. Cookies over chips. How many cookies do we have? Well, 5 dozen. That's the same as 60 cookies over 2 cups of chips. She wants to make 108 cookies, and she wants to know how many cups of chocolate chips will it take. Well, once again, we're going to do cross products, and we'll get 60x equals, what's that, 216? We divide by 60, and 216 divided by 60 is x equals 3.6 cups. So, as we've looked at these problems, we've noticed that we have to make sure we use the same units. If you don't use the same units, it doesn't work. If you use the same units, you can compare the ratios. So just make sure that when you're putting numbers into your proportion, that you use the correct units. Use matching units. That's the secret. And don't forget to cross multiply and then solve your equation.